Hello, everyone. We are calling this meeting for Budget and Finance Committee to order. Today is Monday, March the 18th. It is about 5:20 p.m. I do detect a quorum with 13 council members present. We do not have anyone that signed up for our public comment period, so we are going to jump right into the agenda. Friendly reminder to everyone who is on the Budget and Finance Committee, please put your yellow committee member card up. And if you are not on committee, or if you notice a blank desk where your neighbor is sitting who's not on the committee, if you can take theirs down, that would be very helpful. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the consent agenda. The items that we currently have on consent are RS 2024-303, RS 2024-304, RS 2024-305, RS 2024-306, RS 2024-307, RS 2024-308, RS 2024-309, RS 2024-310, RS 2024-311, RS 2024-312, RS 2024-315, RS 2024-316, and BL 2024-256 and BL 2024-257. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull off of consent before we read the captions? Councilmember Soror, you are recognized.
Thank you. Item number 7, RS 2024-304, please.
Okay. Is that the only thing so far, Councilmember Soror? Okay. Does anyone else have anything that they want to pull off initially? All right, I will go ahead and read through the captions. So starting with item number 6, RS 2024-303, Porterfield and Bradford approves a sole source contract between the Metropolitan Government and KCI Technologies Incorporated to provide consulting, development, implementation, and managed services for CAL-related suite of application replacements for end-of-life versions of CityWorks, Hanson, e-permits, e-plans, land management, and various other similar applications in various metro departments. Item 8, RS 2024-305, Porterfield, Evans, Walsh, and Allen approves Amendment 1 to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to Metro Office of Family Safety to fund staffing positions to help manage the multidisciplinary needs of its clients. RS 2024-306, Porterfield, Evans, and Coupin accepts a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to mitigate the effects of law enforcement emergency by reimbursing overtime costs associated with the Covenant tragedy. RS 2024-307, Porterfield, Evans, and Coupin accepts a donation of 2 trained police horses for the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee for the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department Mounted Patrol to use for law enforcement duties. RS 2024-308, Porterfield, Evans, and Walsh approves an Amendment 1 to a Victim of Crime Act grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to fund additional staffing, enhance services, and serve more victims of crime. RS 2024-309, Porterfield authorizes the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle a personal injury claim of Larry Taylor against the Metropolitan Government for $32,000, with said amount to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. RS 2024-310, Taylor, Porterfield, Styles, and Welsh accepts an in-kind grant from the Centennial Park Conservancy to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund the purchase and installation of an Art Century security system at the Parthenon. RS 2024-311, Prepty, Porterfield, Styles, and Welsh accepts an in-kind grant from the Friends of Green Hills Park to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to install a new water fountain by the playgrounds and construct a wind telephone in Green Hills Park. RS 2024-312, Ewing, Porterfield, Styles, and Welsh accepts an in-kind grant from the Friends of Warner Park to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to provide funding for the renovation and expansion of the Warner Park headquarters. RS 2024-315, Porterfield Parker approves a contract between the Metropolitan Government and Guthrie Sales and Services Co. Incorporated for the provision of SSI aeration, Limtork, hopefully, Brentwood Industries, Polychem, General Rubber Products, Parts, and Services for the Central and Dry Water Reclamation Facility. RS 2024-316, Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker approves supplement number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Water and Sewage Services to construct PIN number 105766 .02 SR-11 Nolensville Pike from north of Mill Creek to near SR-254 located in Davidson County, Tennessee. Bills on second reading, BL 2024-254 Oh, excuse me, that one is not on consent. That has an amendment. My apologies. Number 19, BL 2024-256, Porterfield Sepulveda approves amendment number 1 to a contract number 450614 between the Metropolitan Government and Election Systems and Software LLC to extend the contract term of an additional 60 months and to increase the value of the contract. BL 2024-257, Porterfield Sepulveda approves amendment 1 to a contract number 450613 between the Metropolitan Government and the Election Systems and Software LLC to extend the contract term of an additional 60 months and to increase the value of the contract. The next one is not on consent. All right, is there anything else that anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Councilmember Sawyer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 17, IRS 2024-316, please.
Okay, item 17 is off consent. Anything else? Going once, going twice, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, can I get a motion for the consent agenda? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Or anyone not voting? The consent agenda passes. 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Now going to the items that are not on the consent agenda. Item number 1, RS 2024-297, Porterfield authorizes and provides for the issuance and sales of general obligation bond anticipation notes in a principal amount not to exceed $375 million, 100,000, yeah, 375 million at any one time in the form of commercial paper of the Metropolitan Government, authorizes and provides for one or more dealer agreements, issuing and paying agency agreements, and liquidity facility agreements, and providing for certain other matters related thereto. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there anyone here? Councilmember Sawyer, did you have a question? Okay. If we could get someone from finance to speak to it, and then we will take any questions on this item. And if you can introduce yourself, you are now recognized.
Hi there, Michelle Bosch. I'm the Metropolitan Treasurer.
Welcome. If you could just speak to what the item is, if you could explain it. This is the first time commercial paper has come up to the body, and about half of the body is new. So everyone may not understand what commercial paper is. So if you could just kind of explain what this is to the body, we'd appreciate it.
Yes. I will try to give you the short version, but if you have any questions, obviously, do ask. So when you approve a capital spending plan, that initiates a process by approving what we call initial bond resolution. And that gives us authority to come back later on and issue bonds so that we can pay for the capital spending plan projects. The state of Tennessee allows us to do what I'm going to simply call interim financing. And so they're called bond anticipation notes, and that's what the commercial paper program is. It's interim financing to get us through a large amount of debt so that we can go to market and issue bonds. So for example, if you have a project in the capital spending plan that's $5 million and one that's $50 million, we wouldn't go to the capital markets every other day looking for $5 million or $10 million. So we accumulate that debt via a commercial paper program. Once we have a large amount, enough of debt outstanding, we go to markets and fix that debt into a long-term bond. So the commercial paper program is a short-term debt instrument where we go to market and we request funding. The money comes in, we use that to pay for the capital projects. And once the program gets expended, in this case, it's a $700 million program between two separate products. Once that amount of money gets expended, then we go back and refinance it with a bond.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Sawyer. Did you want to be recognized?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Michelle. The question that I have relates to actually item number 1 and 2, 297 and 298. So in reading the analysis for 297, this is to approve the amount up to 375. But when you look at 298, which is what actually allows us to continue to use it, said it has to be capped, the maximum amount at 325. And so I want to be sure that we're not going beyond the 325 that we'll be doing in item number 2 by approving 375 in item number 1.
Yes, so that's why I'm here. So the program itself is a $700 million program. We diversify the program by having 2 different types of commercial paper. One that we call traditional commercial paper, and that's the 375, which is resolution ending in 297. And the other one is an extendable program, and that's resolution 298. So they're separate approvals. The 375 and the 325 add up to the complete total of the program for 700.
Thank you. Is there a limit for the traditional 375 one?
I don't understand.
So the extendable one is capped at 325. Is there a cap for the other one?
Yes, the 375.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. My understanding is that there's also another commercial paper program for water. Is that separate from this one, and what is the cap on that one?
Yes, the water program is a different credit than that of the general government, and that one is 400 million and similarly structured. This structure mirrors that of the state. They also have the same bond anticipation note program. The water department splits up their program between a $200 million traditional and a $200 million extendable program.
And then one more question. And where does that show up in our budget or in our debt reports?
So you get a quarterly report from me, and that's posted on our website. And that report gives you an update on all of the commercial paper that's currently outstanding and the size of our program.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Councilmember Prepty, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. I just had a quick question for the Finance Department as a new council member. Could you talk about the differences or sort of the structural differences between these commercial papers with general obligation bonds and revenue bond issuances? I'm not 100% sure or clear on the differences between those and how those operate specifically for our budget.
Yes, thank you for asking that. So the general obligation bond basically means that you have the full faith and credit of the Metropolitan government backing up that debt. So for us, that means that property taxes will back up the debt and pay for those interest payments and those principal payments. For the revenue part, revenue bonds or revenue, like the water and sewer commercial paper program, is strictly backed by the revenues that come into that department. So the Metropolitan government, in terms of the ad valorem taxes, is under no force to raise taxes so that they can pay for those bonds. So the general obligation bonds have a heavier weight in the capital markets, which also causes you to have a lower interest rates because they're more secure.
And with RS 2024-297, within the text of the this resolution, it discusses how the amount of this issuance under the general obligation bond, the $375 million, is designed to. My handwriting is off, so I'm trying to. Is designed to refinance a prior note issued under RS 2021-963. Could you talk a little bit more about that prior issuance and sort of like the refinancing and the financial benefit that Metro will be receiving from that refinance?
Yes, so the bond anticipation notes, as the state calls them, is a program that the Metropolitan government has been involved in since the early 2000s. So we're just basically bringing you a reiteration. Every time we come to Metro Council to seek approval, the state allows us to do a 2-year bond anticipation note program with 2 optional renewals. So the program can be up to 6 years long. And so after the 6 years, the program essentially matures, and we have to come back to Metro Council and get reapproval for a new program. So that's what you're looking at in terms of the age of when it keeps coming back up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 12 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. The next item is RS 2024-298 Porterfield, amends Resolution RS 2014-1066 as amended to extend the duration of the general obligation extendable commercial paper program of the Metropolitan government. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 12 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. The next item is RS 2024-300 Porterfield, Gamble, Allen, and Coopin authorizes the execution of a cooperation agreement between the Metropolitan government and the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. And we have, I believe, Dr. White from MDHA. Is he still in the back? Okay, Saul Solomon also left? Okay. All right, well, we have someone here from the administration that can speak to it. I'm going to kick this over to the Honorable Mendez. You're recognized.
Thanks, Chair. This is a renewal, 3 years ago when the RAD program transferred ownership of land of MDHA to MDHA from the federal government, there became a component of property taxes that would be due. And in order to help MDHA with the property taxes, there was an agreement that had a 3-year lifespan that set up a certain amount of payment in lieu of taxes for both the affordable units that MDHA had and market rate units. And that 3-year agreement has expired. This is a do-over with a higher amount per unit. And instead of this being automatically expiring after 3 years, this has got a mechanism to have it in the amounts increase over time, depending on increases in market rents for the market units and increases in HUD financing that MDHA receives for their affordable units. So this is a thing that got a lot of attention from the council when we first did about 3 years ago. The original agreement expired. We think it works in helping MDHA keep the units that they have affordable and has them still paying some money in lieu of taxes. So with that, we'd ask your approval.
Thank you. Before you get too comfy in that chair, can you explain what the RAD program is?
Way back when, for most of the time that MDHA has existed, the property where they've got their units, like at Casey and Napier, they're owned by the federal government and operated by MDHA. And several years ago, the federal government had a program, the RAD program, that let ownership go to MDHA under certain circumstances. And that's when this problem came up, and that was the purpose of the original agreement.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Soror, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Would you speak to, in looking at the new agreement, it also talks about partnership with for-profit entities. Can you speak to that? And also, if we start getting into mixed income and for-profit, how do we protect the 0 to 30 AMI, the categories that MDHA is typically doing? So I saw that there's a for-profit thing there that this allows them to do, and I just wanted to understand that in detail.
Thank you for that question. At the last committee meeting, I guess it was planning and zoning, when MDHA was present, Dr. White talked a little bit about with the program where they came to own the property, there's a 20-year affordability. What was the word he used? It wasn't overlay, but there's basically a deed restriction for them to have affordability for a certain amount of time. And so they've got the ability to have some for-profit units, but they're still committed to a certain level of affordability going forward. And that's why we've got it in the agreement bifurcated to have different payment in lieu of taxes depending on whether it's an affordable unit or a market unit.
Thank you, Councilmember Sora. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-301, Porterfield, Gamble, Welsh, and Coopin approves the second amendment to a grant contract for constructed affordable housing approved by RS 2022-1443 between the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission and Rebuilding Together Nashville. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded, and I believe we do have Karen Weaver from the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund, I believe, to speak to this. And then after she speaks, Councilmember Allen, you will then be recognized.
Thank you. I'm Karen Weaver. I'm the manager of the Barnes Housing Trust Fund. Let's see, this is by Rebuilding Together Nashville. As I had mentioned in the last committee meeting, this is the second amendment to this contract, but only the first extension. So they had requested an amendment earlier based on construction issues, but this is their first extension of 12 months. Their rationale for this is that they had launched a new target community. This is the one that's on in the Dickerson Pike corridor that expands their Bordeaux corridor. They said, we still face some challenges and delays of supplies like windows on some items, but we have built a consistent pipeline of homes and feel like we will be able to reach our final goal of 87 units by the expiration of this 12-month extension, which would be April 2025. We were asked to give some information on how many units have been completed to date, and 37 homes have been completed, 6 are under construction, and the executive director, Andrea Prince, expects that 51 total will be complete by June 30th of 24 due to increased staff and increase in some matching funds. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to be recognized as abstaining.
Yes, ma'am. Do we have any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? And we have one abstention. So we have 12 in favor, 0 against, and 1 not voting. So motion is approved. Next item, RS 2024-302, Porterfield, Styles, Walsh, and Coopin approves an application for an Arts Bill Communities Grant for the Tennessee Art Commission to the Metropolitan Arts Commission to support art projects that strive to ensure that all Nashvilleians have access to a creative life through community investment, artist training, public art, and direct art programs involving the public. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Huffman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just a real quick clarification here. I was looking at the grant application, and I understand that this is a match from the funds that we receive from the state, but I'm looking to get just a little bit more clarity in regards to that a little bit under 20,000 indirect cost to Metro and what that covered.
Thank you. Is there someone from finance that can speak to that, or the arts department?
Hey there, I can speak to that. Indirect costs are generally generated through a process that we come up with through our LOCAP and through our indirect cost calculation. And we put that in each of our applications to ensure that we're funding the administrative costs and we're not losing that as part of our general application.
And do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Amanda Deaton-Moyer. I'm with the Finance Department.
Thank you, Amanda. Councilmember Huffman, do you have any additional questions? All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposing, nay? Anyone abstaining and not voting? All right, motion carries 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. The next item is RS 2024-304, Porterfield and Bradford approves amendment number 1 to a sole source contract between the Metropolitan Government and Argano LLC to reflect scope of work changes and increase for the value of the contract. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded, and Councilmember Soror, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I do want to acknowledge that some responses has been sent to me I've not gone through all of them, but considering the value of the contract and the big change, I want to ask the question on record. And so my question to whoever can answer them is that we have this contract that is for 10 years. The original contract was also for 10 years. We're 2 years in, so we've already down to 8. But I'm looking at the details of this contract and I see where terms that we negotiated 2 years ago, for example, the MMPS payroll support or payroll roll, we negotiated it for $1,020,000. But in the new contract, we're now having it at $1,200,000. So it's gone up, even though we're 2 years in. And so I just need someone to be able, thank you, Dawn. She sent me an explanation, but I really do want us to go into, one, I understand that the contract is increasing because we have new services, but why are we renegotiating the one that was lower and we're already built into that? Why don't we just add the new services instead of paying more for the ones we already have?
Thank you, Councilmember Sora. We have Don from ITS. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, Dawn Clark from ITS. I'm Assistant Director. What I have listed in the memo is services and support. This is a summary of projections that I did as of, well, the point in time that I drafted this, which was late 2023. But so that's if you take the one that you just addressed, the M&PS salary roll support, that is just based on all the information I have now, the projected, it takes what the actual amount is that has already been incurred the first 2 years, and a projection based on what the departments request of us each year, which varies out to the remaining 8 years. So it's not a renegotiation. The rates have stayed the same, and it's just the original in the memo when the contract was created was done back in 2021, and there's additional services and quotes and estimates and projections that I did lining it up a year over year. And this isn't just a rate. This is a executive summary of kind of each of these categories of potential services and support. I mean, and we just provide that to the procurement team when we put together this max value. And again, this is the maximum value of the contract. This doesn't commit us in any way to this exact amount. The only time it gets committed is when we get a detailed statement of work each year or at the start of a project, and then we issue a PO, which actually encumbers the funds. So, this isn't that it didn't get renegotiated higher rate. It's just a new projection based on every bit of information I had at the time of this contract amendment versus what happened back in 2021. And as you noted, there's some pretty significant large new projects that I didn't have them on my radar back in 2021.
Thank you. Councilmember Sora, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just want to clarify. I understand that it was a projection 2 years ago and a projection now. Did the services increase? I mean, what made it
Yes.
change to?
Yes,
Even though we're 2 years, okay.
Yeah, as the biggest one is the Oracle Cloud project, which was just approved in the CSP, and it's a project that totals $35 million. And Argano is the vendor partner implementer for that project. And we just went live with the first phase of Capital Project Management System, which is also an Oracle product, Primavera, which is also being implemented by Argano. And so those are just two examples of brand new projects. And, as the departments come to us and request, either, a new enhancement to an existing system or, additional support, because they have, as an example, we had a time when we were in between payroll managers, and they needed extra support with like year-end processing. So we provided some managed services support for that. And that's, you know, again, that's something they come to us and we go to our partner, Argonaut, to provide that assistance. So it is new, kind of both new and expanded kind of requests and services.
Thank you. One last question. So we have this now for 10 years, based on the services we think we're going to need in the next 10 years. Now, in 2 years, are we going to stick with the 1,200? If they want more services, then we'll come back and renegotiate at that point.
No, I mean, this is just expanding that overall max value on the agreement. So, you know, and like I said, you know, this is just based on the projections and it has built into it, you know, future growth, you know, based on that. So, you know, I'm not looking to come back to the well to you guys again. So, you know, like I said, I thought I had everything back in 2021, but I couldn't, I didn't predict the large project that bubbled up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Sore. Did anyone else have any questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Anyone not voting or abstaining? Motion carries 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. We have just a couple more items, y'all. The next item is item number 17, RS 2024-316, Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker. Approve supplement number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Water and Sewer Services to construct PIN number 105766.02 SR-11 Nolensville Pike from the north of Mill Creek to near SR-254 located in Davidson County, Tennessee. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Sore, you recognize?
Yeah, when I pulled this, I was looking at Amanda. I didn't know that she moved. So this one, I just needed some explanation. When I was reading the analysis, the way that I read it, and I want to make sure that I did not read it wrong, is that we will be incurring additional costs in order to be able to fulfill this agreement, but the state is capping what they will reimburse us. And so we will make up that difference. If that's the case, what is the delay? Because this is something we're doing for the state. And then we're going to be coming out of pocket because the state would not pay for the extra. So why is it, and when I look at it, it's gone up twice, even within the analysis. So I just want somebody to explain if I'm reading that right and what are we doing to mitigate this additional cost on our behalf that the state is not going to give us back.
Thank you, Councilmember Sore. We have Mary Peoples from Water. Can you speak to that, or would you like somebody from Finance to speak to it?
Good evening, council members. Mary Peoples from Metro Water Services. I would defer to the finance team at the front of the room if I could, because the person who was here to speak to that has left for the evening.
Thank you. Is there somebody from Finance that can speak to it?
I think Ms. Moore.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Go ahead.
I defer to Ms. Moyer because she signed off on it while she was still with the department, so I thought she would be able to better explain it.
All righty. Thank you. We're kicking it over to you.
Hi there, Amanda Deaton-Moyer with Metro Water and Metro Finance in this moment. You've got it exactly right. So this is a specific piece of the code whereby TDOT pays for up to a certain amount. This has been in the works for a really long time. In fact, we allocated this several years ago. And so you can imagine the estimates have changed. And when it came to the council the first time, we had one estimate, and then they did and you have to have some money in there before they'll do the engineering design, and then they get the construction estimate, and that was arguably much higher. And so it's state code that allows it to be that cap. And so we are adding an additional bit, but it's really a good deal for us because we don't have to pay for the whole thing, and TDOT does it, and they pay for our betterments.
Thank you. Councilmember Sore, you have any other questions? Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or not voting? Motion carries 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Bills on second reading, BL 2024-254, Hancock, Huffman, Horton, and Webb, amends Title 15 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to infrastructure investment for off-site construction. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded, and we do have an amendment, and Councilmember Hancock is with us, so I'm going to call on Councilmember Hancock to speak to her amendment, but can we get a motion to get the amendment in front of us? It has been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Hancock, you're recognized.
Director Darby helped make some changes with the input of water, and these two paragraphs were inadvertently left out when those changes were made.
Okay, so just, it sounds like maybe housekeeping. Director Darby, if you could speak to it.
It's a housekeeping amendment. There were a couple of phrases that were left out in the two paragraphs that are mentioned in the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we have Metro Water here. Ms. Peoples, can you speak to the amendment and if Metro Water is in favor or in support of the amendment and also the legislation overall?
Okay, Mary Peoples, Metro Water Services once again. We are in support of this as long as legal is in support of it. That's the information that I have. Mr. Honeysucker did have to step out and he was gonna speak to this, but that's the information he left with me.
Okay. Well, thank you. We're going to recognize legal. This is like musical chairs today. So legal, if you could speak to
Tom
it.
Cross or Metro Legal, and we don't advocate for or against bills like this, but the form is appropriate if it's the council's will to pass it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that information. Do we have any discussion on the amendment? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any not voting? The amendment passes 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Now we have the legislation before us as amended. Councilmember Hancock, would you like to speak to the legislation as amended?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The point of this legislation is to try to make it more transparent for the community at large and folks that want to build what they'll be responsible for paying for, and kind of put that out in front of them instead of making the agreements with some people and not with others and not having the full transparency. So for example, in my district, I had someone that bought 4.5 acres. They moved here. They talked to all 4 of their children's and families to move here. They were planning on building 5 houses there, which would have been allowed for that particular zoning area. But then when they found out the cost of the infrastructure and the size of the road they would need to put on their property and that sort of thing, and there was a lot of extra that they needed to pay for regarding sewer and such that they weren't prepared for, and now they have since all left Nashville, unfortunately. But that's not the only case. There's also been cases where large developers have made investments that weren't necessarily necessary for their parcel, but adjacent to their parcel, and they did have an agreement, and this just kind of codifies that and makes it more clear for everyone.
Thank you so very much for that explanation. And I was just informed by Director Darby that this was deferred for one meeting in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So would anyone, we can entertain a motion to defer so that they could track. Councilmember Spain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's right. There were some concerns, and this seems to make a lot of sense. But there were some concerns expressed in Transportation Committee about if this would result in an increased financial burden to Metro, and if so, how that might be paid for. So that was the reason for the deferral, and for that reason, I'll make a motion for a one-meeting deferral.
Thank you. Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer one meeting? Seeing none, I would ask that if anyone has any questions on this legislation, please make sure to send those questions in to Director Darby or to John Honeysucker or Mary Peoples with Metro Water so that we can make sure to get those questions answered. So seeing no discussion on the deferral motion, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions or not voting? One meeting deferral passes, 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. And now for the last item on our agenda, BL 2024-258, Coupon Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker declares surplus of certain real property and authorizing the Metropolitan Government's execution and delivery of a master development agreement and ground lease agreements related thereto, an amended and restated site coordination agreement, a campus operations and use agreement, a declaration, and other documents and agreements relating to the development of a portion of the East Bank Stadium campus. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? We do have a letter from the sponsor to defer one meeting. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the deferral? Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to make sure somebody will officially say that part of the reason we're deferring this is so we can attend the meeting on Wednesday, March 20th at 4:30 in the jury assembly room to get lots of questions answered. So that people will know about that.
Thank you for putting that out there, council member. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of a one meeting deferral say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? The one meeting deferral passes, 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. We do have two very quick announcements. Please remember from our last committee meeting, we did discuss that there will be 3 working groups. The working group that is dealing with nonprofits and how they interact with the Metro budget will be led by Councilmember Berkeley Allen. The working group looking at procurement will be led by Councilmember Zulfat Sarora, and the working group to look at right sizing our departments will be led by Councilmember Quinte Toombs. So if you are interested in one of those working groups, please make sure to reach out to Director Darby so that we can make sure to get you all connected with that appropriate working group. And last but certainly not least, happy birthday to our Vice Chair, Council Lady Quinte Toombs. It's her birthday, so we hope you enjoy your day, Council Lady. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.